Hey guys, welcome back to Upside Down Data. This is a quick update about the current state of the UDPI risk indicators for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the 12 altcoins that we're monitoring so far. UDPI stands for Upside Downside Potential Indicator. It's our in-house risk indicator that we developed here at Upside Down Data, and we started the channel to share it with you all. So the goal of these short videos is to tell you which assets are relatively undervalued from the standpoint of the model, meaning that they have relatively limited downside potential for the near future and relatively high upside potential, as well as assets that are relatively overvalued from the perspective of the model, meaning that they have relatively limited upside in the near future and relatively high downside, or a lot of relative downside potential for the near future. And so what we can see is, looking at a glance, we want to identify those gauges that are tilted to the left. Where the needle is pointed to the left, it means that there's relatively low downside potential and relatively high upside potential. It means risk is relatively low when the needle points to the left. And we can see that with ADA, XRP, HBAR, and Algorand in particular. So those four seem to be relatively favorable risk-reward ratios at this point in time. On the other hand, we see that in particular DOT, most of all, DOT has pumped up recently in anticipation of the parachain auctions, and its risk is sitting at 2.91, which is pretty elevated and certainly more elevated than any of the others you see on the screen. And so that suggests that DOT is relatively high risk right now. Now, DOT could continue to run. It certainly has more room. The scale maxes out at 5, so there's no rule that says that it has to reverse. But imagine if Bitcoin were to dump down to 50K, let's say. If Bitcoin were to drop, it would take altcoins with it, because that's how things work. And one thing that these risk indicators are useful for is to give you a sense of which assets might really get punished if that were to happen. And so DOT, because it's run so much recently, might be especially vulnerable to that kind of thing. So this tells you how risky these things are to hold relative to each other. Now, the market as a whole is pretty bullish right now. So it's hard to be bearish on much of anything, right? But again, that could change. And this tells you what's riskier to hold if that were to change, even if in the short term, even just temporarily, if there were a pullback. And it also tells you, which assets have more upside potential that you might want to be in if you're choosing what you want to buy or what you want to hold. Not financial advice, but this is how you can use this model, looking across multiple assets, to try to inform your decision-making process. If you guys find this valuable, subscribe to the channel, give us a like, help us reach more people. We'll also be updating you on Twitter regularly at Upside Down Data. Look forward to seeing you next time.